Then, in the vision, I saw people marching. I saw protests. I saw people wearing masks. I saw lines going into hospitals. I saw typical medical doctors with needles or syringes. I saw people on ventilators. I saw people who were very, very sick, very, very ill. I saw newspaper headlines trumpeting thousands of people getting sick. I saw ambulances just flying down roads. And then I saw cities on fire. I saw buildings being burned. I saw protesters with masks. I saw people who had their fists in the air, people who were yelling and screaming, angry just at the world. I saw courthouses. I saw state houses surrounded. I saw people who were mad at the world. I saw guns, shotguns specifically, put in the air, held like this, and I saw barriers within cities. I told several men in my church about this, and I can confirm who those men were, and they'll confirm that what I'm telling you is what I told them. I saw absolute chaos. And the other thing I saw was vultures flying over large cities. Not just the ones that were burning, but I saw vultures flying over the cities. And I saw smoke rising, and I saw people fearful. I saw people terrified. I saw people inside their homes, looking out the windows, the curtains of their windows, with guns in their hands because there was absolute fear. Then I heard the words, brace yourself, brace yourself. So since December, I've been hearing those words, brace yourself, brace yourself. January, February came, didn't seem too much. I reminded the men of the dream, and then in March, boom, COVID-19 hit. And things started shutting down. Churches were shut down, business was shut down, the economy shut down. Then we began to see the protests starting in May in Minneapolis, and all those things began to go on. And with that in mind, on Monday night, I had another dream. And it woke me from my bed. I made notes about it. I shot some video of myself, just making sure I can remember. But here's what I saw. I saw a calendar. Start with the calendar. And as I was having this, the calendar was up, a white figure appeared. And to me, it was representing God, the Holy Spirit, something pure, something righteous, something true, something holy, because there was nothing sinister about it, nothing evil. But I heard the voice say, part two, part two. And I saw June go up. I saw July, I saw August, and then I saw September. And I saw the finger underneath the word September, and like emphasizing it, and tapped it 3 times. And then I saw October come up, and then I saw November. And this is when it got real to me in the dream. I think the intensity, according to my Fitbit, when I woke up, my heart rate was about 180. So that was Monday night. It was also a night that I woke up not feeling very well at all. I was up during the night, not feeling well. But anyway, the minute the finger underlined November 3 times, instead of tapping it, I saw a fist ball up and it hit the calendar. And literally, the calendar exploded into the wall. The numbers seemed like they were 3D and they were just flying everywhere. And there was a cloud of chaos that started. And then the next thing I saw was I saw armed protesters. I saw fighting in the streets. I saw people pummeling one another. I saw businesses shuttered and shut up. I saw schools closed. I saw schoolrooms with cobwebs hanging in them, and like things like papers falling off the wall and posters falling, like no one had been in them for months. I saw bank buildings with the roofs being taken off. And it looked almost like alien abduction because money was just flying through the roof into some type of like a vacuum cleaner. I know it sounds kind of strange, but I was watching wealth just being taken. I saw politicians in back rooms making deals with people, patting people on the back and laughing and smiling and smirking. And I saw monuments. I saw Washington, D.C. burning. I saw Washington, D.C. blazing. I saw fires everywhere. I saw people being rounded up. I saw Chinese and Russian soldiers on the ground. And Russian soldiers were telling the Chinese soldiers to go and pick up these people, round up these people, secure this quadrant, secure this area. I saw blue helmets of the UN. I saw military things taking place. I also saw no sign of President Trump. I saw no sign of leadership in Washington, D.C. I saw people hiding in their homes and garages. I saw churches being burned. I saw homes being burned. I saw absolute chaos. And the fist punch on the November of 2020 is what got my attention. And then I heard the words again, brace yourself, brace yourself, brace yourself.
About, I would say 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, we had a person, I should say what they are. We're trying to keep her anonymous, which I have actually shared with you their information, and you're going to get a chance to talk to them as well. And they are a financial auditor. They actually audit government transactions, so DHS, FEMA, these kind of things, and they look over these things and sign off on them. What has crossed their desk is essentially a cleanup, a ton of money, and this is for this year's budget, for cleanup for debris from a Class 2 gas giant. Now, this is what this person is saying, and a Class 2 gas giant is in space. When you said that your source was saying that we are going through a debris field, that was basically like exactly what we heard, only in different words. So it was really freaky that that you said that. Now, I'm sorry, there's a train up above. Basically, I've been talking to you, I've been talking to others, and everything is starting to line up right now. The creation of Space Force, the observatory shutdowns. Now, currently, you've got all of the military leaders that aren't necessary, that, aren't doing public, statements, are all in Mount Cheyenne. And this is public. They know that they're in Mount Cheyenne, NORAD. They've picked certain continuity of government. They've actually picked those government workers and put them in Mount Cheyenne as well. And then you've got Sunspot Observatory actually shutting down. 6 more. This was, prior. And I almost think that is when they discovered all of this.
And I would like to go back just for a moment when you talked about the source that you have, that's the auditor, and talking about the cleanup of this. I forget how you kind of spoke about that, but can you kind of elaborate a little bit more about that so that the listeners would understand better about what you mean by this cleanup that she was seeing, and what type of event would cause that?
So here was the only discrepancy when you spoke and when she spoke, was that you said we might be going through an asteroid belt. I think that you only said that on one video, and I think you later kind of said, I'm not an expert on this, but it wouldn't necessarily be us going through an asteroid belt. People get weird about technicals. It would be some stuff coming towards us, so a lot of asteroids. So not technically an asteroid belt, but, us we're not scientific. Basically, a lot of stuff coming towards us. What she was saying, or what they were saying, is that basically this stuff came across the desk and it was for serious debris cleanup. And we're not talking about debris like some stuff on the side of the road. We're talking about debris as in like cities crumbling. You're talking about the amount of money spent is cleaning up half of the planet. It's more money than any of us will ever imagine to have. Even some of the elites will not have this much money. So again, they're cleaning up destroyed cities. That's what we're getting from it, and that is debris from space. Debris. I mean, that's literally something from space affecting us here on the planet. People don't have to believe. Here's the one thing that we don't have is the time frame. So I am not sending this out there to say, hey, there's a date that you guys need to worry. I think that all of us on Earth should just, accept that we all have a limited time frame. And I think we really need to start accepting that whether you get hit by a car, or whether, you get cancer 10 years down the road, whatever it is, we all have to accept that we're human and we might die. When you start to accept that, you stop getting afraid of all of these different things.
As you mentioned earlier, the asteroid belt, as I called it, Glenn, my Washington source, said in his email to me, which we talked by phone on secure lines and literally from the Pentagon. I get his calls from the Pentagon on secured lines. He said, Steve, you call it an asteroid belt, but that's not what it really is. So there you, like you said, and I've shared that with people before. He just said to me that September, everybody on the planet would know that we're in big trouble, but he never elaborated. And then my FEMA source and also another friend of mine that's a contractor for the Pentagon both said they corroborated the information about September separately. And they said that September we would see one of the first strikes of an asteroid, and then it would slowly but surely continue to happen as the months went on. Today, though, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this as I conclude this part here, I felt pressed in my heart to go to my email on Israeli News Live and just type in asteroid. No voice spoke to me or nothing. I just felt it in my heart. I needed to do that. I felt like there's somebody who's written me that I need to go see who it is. And I don't do that very often. It's very unusual for me to do that. So I did. And sure enough, about the fourth email down under asteroid, a man named Robert, I won't call his last name as of yet, but he is going to come on our program Tuesday night. He had wrote me to call him. He said, I've got a serious information I want to share with you. And so I did. And I don't normally do that because you never know who's contacting you. And you know how that is, Adam. I mean, you've made an incredible organization in a short amount of time. But Robert said to me, I believe he's retired Navy. I think he's a cryptologist, if I remember right. He speaks Spanish as well. He traveled to Chile and was given the access to go through the documents and records of the Chilean astronomer Munoz Ferrada. And he said, you're very close to accurate, but just a little bit off as far as Mr. Ferrada's notes. He said, he said, I speak Spanish, so I took all the notes. He said, I've compiled them. They were very generous. I spent 3 days working on this. He said, in Ferrada's notes, he said, again, as you call it, asteroid belts, not what he calls it, but he said that you'll start seeing them coming in more and more frequently in the end of 2020. He didn't say what month, just the end of 2020. He said in about every 13 or so asteroids that come by, one is going to hit the Earth. He said, but they won't be planet killers, but they'll be significant in size. They'll cause a lot of damage. And he said that will go on, and in his point, he said it can go on up to about 5 or even 7 years. He said Mr. Ferrada put in his notes, he could never pinpoint the calculation of the coming of this quote-unquote Nibiru, but he called it Herboculus, because he said it constantly changes speed, slows up, speeds up, slows down, etc. But he said when it comes through, he said the poles will shift. He said continents will rip apart. He said that's exactly what he wrote in his document. They will rip apart. He said that will be when the devastation really comes. And so I mentioned to him that my FEMA source said that there would be like rain of little asteroids, little small ones coming down, which was similar to what I was told with my source that works with the Pentagon. And he said he also wrote about that as well. He said, but they will not be devastating, but they will cause a lot of damage. With that in mind there, of course, one, it's good for people to know. It's not like you got to be afraid that you're going to be, knocked out by billions of asteroids just coming down by the end of the year, but it'll be a gradual thing that happens over time. Adam, what's your thoughts?
If we're having so many more of these things, why would they shut down all of the world's observatories when, they say, by the way, their comment goes, well, don't worry, just because we shut them down don't worry, the government ones are still working. So we've still got the most important ones working, and, they're monitoring the situation. When all of the other ones, the regular Joes, they're all closed down for CV-19 when A lot of them are run by one person at a time. Like an actual one person can run one of these things by themselves. There's no reason to social distance. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly. And the thing is what you're saying was confirmed to me by the contractor friend that I have that does a massive contract with the Pentagon. And he's been following this for, I don't know, about 12 years and knowing all about this system coming. And he was told as well, they shut these down because they didn't want the public knowing. Now, his own words to me, we had a private conversation recently, and his own words to me was that roughly and he said it like this. Now, Glenn, my Washington source says by September, everyone will know. He said, well, it's either August or September. He said, and if it's not being able to be seen by August or September, then it would be in the spring of the year. And so sometimes when I say things like that, people say, oh, Steve, you're starting to change your mind on what time frame. No, all I can do is share what's being told to me. I'm like everybody else, or like the same with you, Adam. I didn't study this stuff. I'm not an astronomer. I mean, there's great people out there that study things like this. You know, we got Jesse with VP Earthwatch. He does a marvelous job at what he does, you know, but kind of like what you're saying too, though, do people always have the access to all that information? Another good friend of mine, Gary Lowry, another amateur astronomer that really loves to follow these type things. But he's even said to me, some things we don't see. We're just amateurs, you know? So could something be coming in that they're not aware of? Like you said, it's coming at us. So I just don't know. But as far as with your own source that you have with the auditor, has she given you any more clues, Adam, that we can kind of glean from?
Okay, so here's the thing. There's no time frame, but it's part of this year's budget. So why would it be a part of, or is it going to be a part of the budget for the next 10 years?
The thing is, when I talk with Glenn said to me one day, he said, Steve, he said, look, we were doing a phone conversation, and he said, a lot of things I go based on probability. He said, because I'm watching what's happening internally. He said, like, for example, your old office, which he's talking about the CIA headquarters, is being moved. He said, we are moving assets from Washington. Most of them are going out to, to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And that's where the majority of all the assets are being moved to. And oddly enough, my FEMA source, who's an engineer for FEMA, said that the reason why they're moving everything out to Colorado is because we're going to be ripped apart here in the United States. Washington, D.C. is going to be totally decimated. And so therefore, Colorado Springs will be the new capital of the United States.
So you realize that there's stuff that backs up what you're saying. Do you see the secret drills above Washington, D.C., where they're swooping in with helicopters and picking up as many people as possible? We know this for a fact. Anybody can look this up. We've documented it. It accidentally leaked out because people asked what the budget was for. Where are these millions of dollars going? For helicopter fuel. And they ended up busting that out. And that came out about 5 months ago. So Washington, D.C. is doing all these crazy drills.
My uncle, who is also retired law enforcement, worked with the FBI. He said, and it was confirmed as well what he told me recently, as well from my FEMA source, that the disaster in America will be so massive compared to the rest of the world that the Chinese are already waiting and ready. They will come in. They will come under the guise that they're bringing humanitarian aid, but they're only going to come after the pilfering and the violence between the citizens that are left have spent all their bullets as much as possible. They will come in as if they're offering humanitarian aid only to take over the nation for its natural resources. When that will be, I don't know.